Hi everyone, Matteo here. This is, well, my first non-competition video in quite some time, and it's mostly because, well, I've not really had many ideas on what I could upload, which isn't just like my competition solves. But if there is something I can do, and what's something I've been asked pretty often, is to maybe do some walkthrough solves on clock. So this is what I'm going to be doing today. So how it's going to work is, I'm going to be doing the solve, like a speed solve, and then I'm going to take the scramble and walk through what I did, what I probably could have done, kind of like walk you guys through my reasoning when I'm doing the solve. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so first solve was a 561. The scramble originally didn't have much. I wasn't able to see anything I could do that was relatively interesting. So I decided to look at this face first because the one with the least pins up. So if there's nothing too obvious, I usually go for the face with the least pins up. And I was looking at this and I was seeing how I could arrange it. And as I was looking, I saw that with a 5, these two would align, and this would align with this, which would then make an easy case, which would mean it would be a 2 move to align all 4. 2 moves to align all 4. So I decided to go with this, and since there was nothing too obvious for me on the second face, I decided to go for x2 rotation. So did 5 here, align these two up. As I'm doing this, I keep track of this piece, because obviously I know exactly what to do here, so all I need to do is keep track of this piece. Put all together, x2. I have the dr, as I do x2, I have the dr up, which I decided to keep, and I decided to move along with that, because I see that these two are together. So I join these two, and I know that if I join these two to this one, this corner will skip, because obviously I won't be moving this corner anymore. I move to this, these 4, I go for this one that's a bit below, and then just finish off the solve. Okay, so next solve was a 541. So this one I took some time to inspect because I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do with this face. I knew I was going to start from here because that's usually when I see the two pieces aligned. That's where I do start off, because I know that when I have these two aligned, I can solve this without moving this, which is pretty convenient. And obviously, since I was like, okay, so I'll push these two pins down and solve this. I was deciding whether to do x2 or y2, see what would be more comfortable with this. But in the end, I decided to do x2. So start the solve was pretty obvious. So I pushed these two pins down, put these together. I tracked where this would go, and obviously since this doesn't move, I didn't need to track anything. x2. I did kind of something stupid because this was already up, so I could have probably gone directly into this. Instead, I switched the two pins, which was something which was because I didn't look ahead far enough to see that that pin would have been up. Kind of a problem of not having a pin order. And so I re-switched these two, connected these, and then went directly counterclockwise into my corners. Okay, so next solve was a 491. This was actually pretty obvious what I wanted to do at the start, and it was a pretty nice scramble, so I'm very happy about what I ended up doing. So obviously you see these pieces, it's one move to align these, and this would go up, which would mean I would need to finish with a 6, which is not ideal, but it's still pretty cool. To be honest, I had no clue what to do at the back, so I was like, okay, whatever I do at the front, the pin that's going to be up is where I'm going to start. So I did this solve, as usual at dr. And again, these two are aligned, so I knew that if I went for this first, these two would keep, but then I could skip this and solve the thing. I went a bit quick here, but I basically saw the corner skips while solving, and so I solved the edge pieces that were aligned with the corner first, that will preserve the corner. Hey, Matteo from the future here, currently editing the video. I actually did a mistake in the risk of instruction of that solve. I didn't go for the second corner skip, I actually didn't notice it. When I did the solve, I solved the edge, when I did the L, I solved the edge that was down instead of the edge that was on the right. It still preserved the corner, but it's kind of weird for me to have not noticed that. But yeah, so the end of the original instruction was slightly wrong, but it more or less gives the same idea. The next solve was a 585, which was, well, pretty decent time, but could have been a lot better, because this is pretty good. So I did these two aligned here, and these two aligned here. So I did a rotation. I wanted to do a rotation that would obviously, like, in both cases, have these two up. Now, when deciding where to start from, this piece is the piece that doesn't move when these two are up. So I saw this was opposite of the 12, so it means I had to do a 6 at the end, which I didn't really like. And although the pins were better positioned for this, I still decided to go with this, because, like, okay, maybe a pin swap, like, switching out of the pins wouldn't be as bad as having to do a 6 at the end. Which, I mean, it didn't go too well, but usually is the right reasoning for me. So, like, okay, so I'll solve these two up, then do this rotation to have this up. So then, you see these two pins down when for the one move. Aligned these, switched. This was already up, which I hadn't noticed these two were going to be solved, which was pretty nice. And then went for this. Went for these corners in this way. And there wasn't really a specific reason, it's just the first ones that I saw. Decided to do it like that. Okay, so last solve was a 628. Wasn't really too many things that were interesting. Well, not too many. So I saw these two were aligned, but the pins were shit for these two. And if I kept this with the 12 up, it meant I would have to use DL, which I really hate. So I decided to turn it like this, but I decided not to start with this face, because I was like, okay, if I start with this face, then I'll probably have to, like, push down both of these pins, I have to push one of these up, and then do some weird things. So I was like, okay, no. Let's pray for the best, and start with this face, and hope that one of these two pins are up when I turn. So I saw this, I was like, okay, what can I do here? There's, like, not much that interests me. Like, let's just go and look ahead. Push this pin down, use UR, because my DR is pretty good. So like, okay, if I do UR, align these two, I can do DR to align this, which then forces me to use DL, which isn't smart, but I didn't think about it at the time. So that's what I ended up doing. If I remember correctly, I actually kept this pin up so that I used DR for this move instead of having to use DL, so that made it slightly better. Okay, so when I rotated, so I saw this pin was up, which is pretty lucky, because that means that, well, what we hoped for ended up coming true. So we didn't do this face first because these two pins were up, and we're like, okay, let's so that when we rotate, one of these two pins is up. Since this was up, we could immediately start with this, so align these three. Then I went into this one. I don't really know why, no specific reason, it's just I think it's the first one I saw at the time. Finished aligning the cross, and then went to this corner and solved them clockwise. Oops. And yeah, that's more or less it.